share my screen again. So this is showing you that there's two tasks were run, they were created, and you can see that there's actually multiple programs within the job, the AR0P job that I selected, because it runs different programs. And if we just refresh to see where we are now, because it was running U0P-2. Yeah, so it's that first one is, no, they're both finished. They're both finished now. Just like a minute or two for each one. So that's you know, adding to a queue. So if you've got a queue open, other than a user queue, so let me go in here. I'm not sure if I've got one called test or not. So I can use this one as an example. It's suspended, so that's fine. So if I wanted to add a couple of programs in here, so if, let's say I wanted to add, let's run that one to start with. And when I, it's not really clear, that one. Yeah, so I can just add that, and it will just add that to the queue. And then for example, this one. That to the queue. So then it's got the parameters included. Just wanted to show you something else. So let's look back at this one again.
So it's like an individual job scheduler, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and you can see when you call the screen up, it shows you I'm in scheduler mode, and it's the test CDI saw that I'm actually going to add this to. So it tells you in advance. So you can see that it shows you that there now. So if I come out of that and out of that, and then call the program again, it doesn't have that. So that means it's going to go into your users queue, whoever you're logged on as. Okay, so that's the difference between those two. So let me just go back to those, and then with these you can move things higher or lower in the higher or lower in the queue. So I can put that below, and I can put that one at the bottom. So I can move them around using these keys. So, you know, promote it or demote it, or move it to the bottom, move it to the top. So you can just use that. And then if you wanted to delete, there's a delete option here. So that the red X. So you can just click that and that. And then once you've made some changes, one of the things you have to do, you have to save that. And there's a little old floppy disk here, so it's going back a while, but so this is where you have to commit that change to the database. And then when you do that, it will tell you at the bottom, transaction completed, 2 records applied and saved. So it confirms that those changes have happened. So, but if you don't do that, it will, so if I just go back in and put that in there, I did that back in. Okay, so it's added that. So if I just try to come out of this, actually, it will let me do that with that program. I'm just thinking there's certain programs which don't allow you to come out without saving. Actually, that's not a very good example, then, is it? Didn't show that as a good example. Right, so just maybe quickly look at the menu structure. So, as I said, I can just individually click these. I can open them all, can expand them all in one go. So that's opened every one. So then you can see all the programs that there are within. That's interesting. It only opened those first few, didn't it? Oh, the first one. sorry, yeah, that's silly me. So if I highlight that and click that, it will open that one. So open that one up, and then I can do that to close it all. Otherwise, you're going through it one by one. So the basic structure is that there's a submenu of anywhere between 0 and 9. And 0 is the main option that most people are using to run certain programs. 1, 2, and 3 are all about reports. Now, reports have changed dramatically in the last few years, and not a lot of customers use reports now. They use their own internal reporting systems. But so we still have some programs there that work. And these may create a Word document or an Excel document. That's what it would produce. Then let's look at another option. There's a 5 as well. So we've got a 5, which a 4 and a 5 is documentation. And 4 will be old style documentation, and 5 is generally new style. Again, there's only a few people use the option 5 for things like purchase orders, printing purchase orders. There we go, sourcing. So they will create the purchase orders, and that will create a PDF form in that instance. So, and then we have 6, which is housekeeping. So these are jobs that generally will be put on to run in a queue, because they clear things up. So things like setting dockets complete and auto-completing dockets and auto-completing purchase orders. So that's a job that will be put into a queue and run every night or every week. And that just keeps, tidies things up. And there's other jobs which, that are run similar to that will calculate costs. In this case, this is weighted average costs. So this seems similar to that. Then we have option 7, which is about altering protected data. So this would be for super users to use, and maybe the IT department in the customers, because these are things that they don't want the general user to be accessing. So they can't do it in these main programs. It's not available to do anything in there. So these are extra things that are limited use. Then we've got data transfer. So this is where we transfer information from SIMs to somewhere else or into SIMs. There are 1 or 2 main modules that do that much more than others. We'll look at those at another time. And then we have something called control and validation. Now, in the past, we for every single module, we have a control and validation option. So the master control table. This is where we can tailor the system to work in a certain way. So there's various options that mean that the system works differently dependent on the selections. And therefore, when you're working with one customer, they've got one set of settings, and another one's got a different set. So that would mean that the system will work differently dependent on those settings. And then here's an example of tabs within a screen that allow you to see more information about that. So initially, this is what we used to do. So every time we wanted to introduce a new tailor, we had to change the form. So what we did a number of years ago is to change it so that we can, instead of adding any more to these screens, we've got a separate option now, which is in here, A1A or CV1A, which is a master control table. So now we can look at changes that relate to that. So the changes that relate to PS, which is the one we're looking at, product sourcing. So we add in new options here instead. So this means we don't have to change the form every time we need to add a new parameter. This just it goes into a table, and this just shows you all the records are in that table. So it's much easier to add stuff now. If we expand the system, So we've got the value that we want this to be. So in this case, it's the same as a default, but in this case, we've changed that to be a value of good. And whenever we make a change in this screen, you need to key in a comment, so it's got a record of who made that change. So that's the sort of control and validation features within there. Now just notion it's 5 minutes to the hour. So we've covered sort of basic access and sort of basic navigation, and with queues and tasks, control and validation. I suppose the next thing I was going to do is to start to show you some of the functionality within the system. So it's probably a good time to have a break for today on this one. Or when I say today, we've got another one in an hour's time. Is that right?
Yeah, it looks like that.
Yeah. So in there, I'll just go through some of the basics within the system, and give you an overview of the modules that exist and how they're used and how much they are used within with our customers. So some of these modules aren't used now by our customers, so we can basically ignore them. So to give you an idea of what to concentrate on in other areas as well. So here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 23, 24, 25, 6. There's 27 there, but a lot of these aren't used now. Probably 2/3 we use, and that's all, that sort of number. So that's what we'll do next is to say I'll go into some of these and start to give you a flavour for what the system can do as an overall picture, and a bit more about what some of the forms, how they operate. And that will probably that might not take a full hour, but that's probably I'll cover as much as I can within that time, just so that we've got a good understanding. And I think following on from that, I'm going to start delving into particular functions and walking through process cycles, so that you can start to get an understanding of, if someone says I've got a problem with a purchase order, at least you've seen through, we've walked through the process of creating a purchase order and all the way through to receiving the goods against that purchase order. So that's the plan for later. Are there any questions at this stage?
So we may need to have the links to play with the system. And
yeah, so what I've done, I've put all the links on the agenda for the next call.
Okay.
So for all 8 of them, but I've not set you up yet. Obviously, I've only set you up on the TM Lewin one, which is this one. This is TM Lewin. That's the only one I've set you up so far. TM Lewin test. So at least you can go into that one. So you could sort of work at the same time. Because it's going to download Java, so that might take a while to actually load. So if you wanted just to access that now, and then it might be there.
Yeah, maybe can you share the link at least to this first environment, like right after this call, so that I can maybe try something before the next call.
Yeah, so I put that on the meeting invite for the next call.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah. So they're all in there. So you just use the last one that's in there.
Yeah. Also, what is it safe to try something on this environment, because you're running these jobs, you obviously know them, but yeah, we're not so aware. So just to be sure we don't break something.
Yeah. I suppose if you don't, I mean, you could just go into screens and have a look at them without actually doing anything to start with, until we've actually been through that area.
Okay.
And then with each area, I'll probably say, because it does depend also on what testing is going on, what testing the customer is doing, and to see, well, that's today we need to stay away from this because they're doing their testing, for example. So we don't want to mess up their data. So it will vary, in terms of what to stay away from, depending on what they're doing.
Yeah, sure.
And then what we'll also do is if there's a ticket that's been raised with an issue, then we'll probably go through a ticket and we'll go through the sort of the methods of resolving that issue.
Yeah, and we'll need to map our videos which we are recording to this spreadsheet, which is populated by Piotr. So this all goes to row 177, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
I'll add the links to the videos to that.
Yeah, no, that'd be good. Yeah, great, yeah. Great, Alexei. That's good. Okay. So we'll see you again in an hour or so.
Yeah.
2 hours, is it?
Yeah, 1 hour.
Yeah. 1 hour. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. See you guys.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.